So here I have my piece of micro lamb. It's 1 3/4 inches thick by 14 inches wide. I'm going to cut it both with the right hand and left hand Ryobi brushless saws. It's rather cold in my shop right now, so battery performance is not going to be great, but they're the same temperature, so it should be a good comparison between the two. So let's just skim off a little. So I've got the left-handed bladed saw using the new blade and the same battery as the right-hand drive saw. Yeah, that cut about the same speed. I'm going to see how fast I have to go to get it to stall. So it's pretty close to stalling speed. I could hear the motor start to bog down, and if I tried to speed up a little bit from there, it would cut out. So I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to the maximum cutting speed for both of these saws. They seem pretty darn similar. So let's take a look at the inside of these two brushless saws. They're mirror images of each other. So place your bets down in the comments. Are these two identical inside, or mostly identical? Will there be any major differences for us to look at? The outside is, there's just a few trivial differences, but let's see what the insides are like. There are more screws hidden underneath this battery tray, this battery holder, and I had some difficulty getting this out. The first time I took it apart, it just popped right out, but later, the second time, it was stuck in there. So I don't know what its deal was, maybe just sawdust or whatever else, but how I got it out finally was I just clipped the battery into it, and that gave me some grip to pull it out. So they are really similar. These motors look identical. It's got a little notch out of the circuit board on the back here, but it's on the front over there, so it's probably just swapped. The European one, or foreign one, does have more stuff on the board, more water protection. Let's see. The switch is also better, or looks better on the European one. This one is just a micro switch, and this is all sort of, you know, cobbled together. It's a trigger with a spring pushing a standard micro switch. And this is actually, oh, this is different, because this switch obviously does not carry the current for the motor with those little weeny wires. But if we look at the other saw, so this saw has a bigger switch, and this switch looks like it switches manually. Yeah, it does. So this wire comes up from the battery up to here to these big leads. So it does two things. This switch with a little micro switch, the little skinny wires, runs the controller, and it also switches on and off the power to the whole saw itself. That's an interesting difference. Other than that, they're pretty similar. ABS plastic for both. Yeah, internal molding looks like they just did a mirror image pretty much. Like I said, this battery bay is slightly different. There are some very trivial differences between these two motors. Just notice that these fan blades on the European saw are all evenly spaced around, as far as I can tell. But the US one, they look not evenly spaced. No, they are not. This one is definitely wider than the ones over on the other side. So this one, for some reason, has asymmetrical fan blades. Why? I have no idea. But functionally, they look really pretty similar. Let's see. This lock mechanism is same. Just mirror image. This one has little bumps, so more trivial differences. Let's see. These pieces are pretty much a mirror image of each other. You know, slightly different styles on these pieces. But you got rubber bump, 4 screws. Oh, this has a warning on the inside. This one does not. Let's see if there's anything more different inside. The 2 gear systems look pretty much identical. We've got the US one and the foreign one, and yeah, no real difference. Down in here they both have little roller bearings. Down in there. The grease in here is already, it's not too dry, but it looks drier than the European one. I might put in a little bit more grease in this now that I've got it open. So I'm going to add some more grease to this. I only have this white bearing grease. It's food safe. I got it for a KitchenAid, but I bet it's better than no grease in here. So I put a dollop in there. If you have one of these Ryobi brushless saws and you've had it for a while, it might not be a bad idea to take off this gearbox thing and add in a bit more grease. It's not sealed in very well into here, and my original saw was a little bit, looked like it was a little bit dry or a little bit low on grease. It wasn't out by any means, but I have a feeling that this is going to run out of grease and you're going to chew up your motor and your bearings. But to take this out, you just undo this little thing so you get a little bit of extra swing in your blade guard, and you take out the 4 screws. So 1 screw there, 1 screw there, 1 screw there, and you can't get to this one unless you remove this little stop. So comparing these 2 saws, is the European one worth $80 more, $80, $90 more? Well, no. As far as build materials, quality, everything is pretty much identical, with just a couple little changes that don't really affect anything performance-wise. They're just minor changes. So unless you really, really want the blade on the right, there's no reason to buy this saw from overseas and wait forever. However, if you do want a right-hand drive Ryobi, they do exist. You can get one into the United States, and it's a nice saw. I do wish they had this right-hand drive saw as an option in the US. You didn't have to buy it from Germany. If this was an option, I'd definitely go with the right-hand blade rather than the left. But that's kind of personal preference. But actually, you know, in some ways it's nice having one of each, because sometimes you want the blade on the other side when you're cutting up against something, or you're... Anyways, there are times when the blade on the left is more convenient, but generally I like it on the right. But now I've got, you know, one of each. So it's kind of silly, but I wasn't able to tell from looking at these which one came first, which design was first. You know, there's no like design artifacts that I could see. I'd kind of suspect that the left-hand drive came first, but I don't know that for sure.